Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Wednesday, January 29th, 1 p.m. And it's been a busy week plus, hasn't it? Ohio State goes out, messes around, wins the national championship. Team up north, reminding anybody at any chance, we beat you. We beat you. Okay. 178 pages of Michigan's response to the notice of allegations obtained by Yahoo Sports. And things are not looking so great up there for those fine folks up US 23, cross the state line, and in Ann Arbor. You have to kind of figure that these pages that were obtained by Yahoo Sports were probably obtained on the Michigan side of things versus the NC2A side of things. There's been a sympathetic voice for Michigan inside the Yahoo Sports main channel. And if these 178 pages are representative of the good news, what awaits in the bad news? Questions. Don't think we're going to have the answers here on this show, but we're certainly here to talk about it. Wasn't planning on doing a show this quickly this week, at least a live one. I'll kind of tell you how things came about. Been really tired still, coming back from the bowl trips. Took a nap, woke up on my phone and looked at my phone, saw people talking about it. It'd only been posted for about 5 or 6 minutes, so apparently my spidey senses still work about being awake for real news. And Tom and Tony did a great show on Tuesday night with instant reactions. I would like to say that I've spent 5-6 hours today reading about this and have 15 more layers of information, but we kind of have what we kind of have. And I just know that Ohio State fans certainly are very concerned about the integrity of the game, the sanctity of how all of this works, and want to see justice be served. I don't blame you. I'm a big rule follower, except for speeding, taxes, some other things like that. But and I'm kidding about the taxes. I don't know how many IRS agents are watching theirs. Mine are perfectly fine. Mine are perfectly fine. I already saw Mika throw in a recruiting question. I'm going to say this. I'm not in recruiting mode yet. I'm going to need another week or two to power down the team coverage side of things, power back up the recruiting side of things. I can play a good number 2 to Mark on the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, one of the great shows you can get here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. But as for a kid that I've never heard of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I need, because it's not only do I need to know about the player himself, I also need to know about what the board looks like. Does it do any good if you have, and this kid in particular is a tight end, if you have 5 other tight ends that you feel really good about landing, what's the point of offering a 6th only to have it come, okay, I'm in. Well, no, you're not, and you need to wait. So again, we are so early in the process based on the old calendar, maybe not as early on the new calendar. And I'll kind of finish my recruiting talk about on this. We're not even to traditional signing day yet. That is next week. There used to be a day and an age where nobody committed early. And then there was a day and age when I kind of started working in the industry of where maybe you would let one player commit on signing day, like Chris Wells, Beanie Wells, committed 1 year in advance, and that was kind of like a big deal. That was kind of a trestle thing there. We'll let one in at that point, and we're going to sit there and we want to see camp and everything else. And now, I mean, you have classes that probably have 6, 8, 10, 14 players for the advance, for the next cycle. I mean, hell, Ohio State has a couple of players for 2027. So we know that the calendar has sped up. But as I get older, I don't know if I've sped up. So I don't know. Have no problem fielding the questions. Just know that if I can't give you an answer that I feel that I have at least something to offer, I prefer not to answer it, because if I ask a question, somebody's like, I don't know. Be like, well, why am I asking this joker a question? But I just really don't know yet. We're like 9 days away from the championship game and everything else. And obviously this news up north has slowed down my progression of powering down the team coverage side and starting to ramp up the recruiting side, the basketball side, things of that nature. So, yeah, and I've been incredibly tired. This trip was a lot, and we'll get to that in a little bit. If we get to a lull, I'll talk about that. But let me kind of get to some of the hellos and things, because we always fall way behind here on the Big Me Kickoff. I guess I should get some business out of the way. You're watching the Big Me Kickoff here as part of Buckeye Huddle. Be sure to sign up for Buckeye Huddle. $4.99 for your first month. I mean, come on. $4.99 for your first month. You want national championship confetti? We have a little bit left. Only members of the site, premium members. So you can get national championship trophy confetti for $4.99. We're not even asking you to pay postage. We're handling the postage. $4.99, you can get all of the team coverage, Tom, Tony, and myself, recruiting coverage from Mark, X's and O's from Ross and his team of experts, the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Columbus Steakhouse, the chillest, most relaxed, awesomest, coolest, whatever message board out there, and just so much more. And it's a great way to show that you are supporting the site, and that the mothership is what makes all the rest of this possible. So be sure to do it. By signing up, you don't automatically get entered into getting the confetti. There is a national championship confetti thread. You have to get into that. DM Tom or say, hey, I just signed up. I want some confetti. Tony sucks. Maybe not the Tony sucks part, but beyond that. Here on the YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. All of that helps us with our distribution. If you're listening on your favorite podcasting channel, write us a 5-star review, even if it is Tony sucks. No, not Tony sucks. And that helps us with our distribution as well. We also have a promotion going with WagerWire, where you could win an autographed helmet from signed by Will Howard. That's up in our pinned threads as well. And we also have, we've been doing some work with Grateful Griddle. I don't have the read on that one. Great food truck that's getting started here in Columbus, Ohio. He is going to be doing an appearance up at, I'll look it up as we're going on. It's a brewery in Lewis Center. He will be providing food up there. I mean, selling food, not giving it out. I'm looking it up as we're talking. On Sunday, I am going to be up there 2 to 4 up at this brewery in Lewis Center. As I pull up the name, as I'm filibustering, guess what? This is part of being a host. You have to be able to. We are looking. I just saw it, Standardized Brewing in Lewis Center. I will be there from 2 to 4. Maybe a little early, maybe a little late. Just kind of depends on what's going on. Talking Ohio State football, enjoying great smash burgers and foods from Grateful Griddle. So just a great chance for me to give back to somebody who's giving back to the site. My coming up there, I'm out in Pickerington, so Lewis Center is not exactly super close, but I try to do everything I can for our great sponsors. I mean, that is, without our sponsors, we're not able to do a lot of this. So why not be able to do some of that? So let's scroll through a couple of these things, and then we will kind of get to the topics. And had a couple of topics put on the message board that I need to get to as well. People that one of them I see already in the chat. The other one, it isn't always a case of where names are the same. You could be Go Bucks 123 on Buckeye Huddle, and then be your real name or be something completely different on YouTube. So I don't always connect the dots. So the people who have the same name, I know who you are. The people who don't, I don't. Mika Hannah, hey, Kevin, buddy, go Bucks. How's it going, Mika? Glad to see you. Obviously, whenever there's a recruiting question, generally you are attached to it. So love to see you on here. Love to see you on the board. Stay busy on the board. It's always great. Robert Howard, afternoon, Kevin, and Buckeye fans. Ohio bookseller. Okay, we've met according to appointment. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out on there. I mean, is this in reference to me being good about starting my show on time, or is this a matter of? I know you and I trade emails. Did we meet in person once? I think we may have met. I don't know. It's a lot. I try not to forget a name or a face, but in working in an industry of where everybody wears numbers and names on their jerseys, I've gotten really bad about stuff. But I know for 1,000% we've traded emails before. So, that's there. Mike Smith, my main man, Kevin. What's up, brother? Not much, Mike. Hope all is going well with you. Florida Buckeye. Yo, Kevin and Buckeye faithful. Happy national championship year. OH and an IO to you, Florida Buckeye, who makes one of the meanest briskets in the state of Florida. I know firsthand, and that potato salad was to die for. So there you go. If you ever get a dinner invite from Florida Buckeye, run, don't walk, run to it because it's solid. Odysseus with an IO, Robert Howard with an IO, Mika Hanna asking the recruiting question. We kind of touched upon that, but that doesn't mean I don't want to sit there and not at least give it a minute of screen time. Odysseus, Michigan to the courts. Your Honor, we have a constitutional right to cheat by spying on opponents. Yeah, well, let me get caught up, and then we'll kind of go into and break down a little bit of what we learned in this whole thing. But they really seem to think that they are being wronged and overcharged and everything else, and this guy isn't even in the program anymore, and this guy doesn't want to be involved in this part of the process. We'll make him a manager. It sure seems like everybody knew, even though they said they didn't. I deleted text messages because I was really, really angry. I'm so angry. I'm going to. How do you delete messages when you're doing this because you're so mad? You can't. How do you delete them? I don't understand. Seems pretty thin to me. How about those Michigan experts? Ryan Day's brother is a PI and did all of this stuff, and they're the ones who did all this. And lo and behold, it is an unnamed Michigan person that is responsible for all this. But I thought Ohio State was going to get nailed under RICO statutes, racketeering and corruption. Well, sometimes you just have to drown out the noise. And yeah, we had some fun making fun of them throughout the process, but we always tried to stay in the world of reality. I can't say that on that side they did. Now, were they getting fed information from on high? Either were they complicit in knowing that they were spreading falsehoods, or were they duped into it? And again, I can't get into the hearts and minds of other people and tell you that. But there are a lot of people up there that sold a bill of goods that didn't come home. And that's all I got to say about that one, at least for now. Let me keep going here. Mike Smith, I have a question from a journalist standpoint. How on earth is that beat that far off and blatantly putting out false information? Is journalistic integrity non-existent up there? Okay, I guess I'm going to address this a little quicker than I thought I was. I'm trying not to burn any bridges. Most of the bridges are burnt. There are about 3 people on that beat I get along with. Here's the thing: you sometimes you do get stuff from people program adjacent, maybe even people in the program, and a good journalist takes that as not fact, but takes it as just information. And you have to be able to discern what is right and what is wrong. Now, sometimes you're working in a situation where they put so little oxygen in the room, and they give you a little bit of oxygen. They're like, if you want to keep getting this little bit of oxygen, you got to do what we tell you to do. And then you have to make a decision. Then you have to make a decision at that point. And again, this is speculation. This is speculation. I've not covered that team. I've gone up and covered events up there. Obviously, I've covered games. I've covered, the day they do the presser before Ohio State does the week of the game. They do have some weird media policies. Even to the point that if you don't have a photo vest, you're not allowed on the field until after the game. Like after the press conferences, you're allowed to cut back across the field. You have to walk around the concourse with all of the fans to get all the way around to the media room. I hate that policy. I hate that policy with all the gear I'm carrying and everything else. It was funnier when Michigan was losing the games because then, it was just grumble, 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 grumble. The other way around is not as much fun as, they sit there and they're like, yeah, I don't recognize you. You must be on the other beat. And then they call you names. I'm used to be calling names, but regardless. So you're given this information or else. Well, what happens if you don't report it? Do they completely cut off your oxygen? You are a credentialed member of their media. If they just sit there and they're like, well, you're not credentialed anymore and you're not covering the games, and they kick you out of covering the presser events, then what do you do? And that's more costly if you work on like a website than if you work for the papers. If you work for the Detroit News or the Free Press or whatever, you've got a much larger, pulpit to stand on. And it's like, this isn't right. We saw USC over the last year get mad at somebody for the Orange County Register for something that they did. There are ways that the university can make its choices. It's not like it has to sit there and say, well, you broke this law and this law. If you just sit there and you piss them off, they could just sit there and say, well, you get out. So I'm not trying to throw them a lifeline by saying that it's not a journalistic integrity thing. I really, truly do believe that there are people that sleep in their Michigan underoos on that beat. 1,000%. And even if they saw a dead body and a smoking gun, they would blame Ryan Day for it. So I don't want to lump everybody in together because that's not fair. There are a couple people up there, and I don't want to name names because then you can process of elimination, and I don't want to get put in there. I've already done a good enough job of ostracizing myself before from people. There are a couple people on that beat that I think do a fantastic job. I ride or die with them. I think they do a great job. And then there's everybody else. So I'll be very curious to see, once we see more definitive information come out, once we see, and it's not on the NC2A to sit there and be transparent. It's never been about transparency. But once some of this other stuff gets out there, and it's like, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. Who actually reports on it and accepts it, and who is still like, well, I can't see the forest for the trees? I still think there are going to be people who are going to pull that, because at some point you sit there and create this persona of, well, I've gone in and decided that I'm going to be the heel or the anti-heel, I guess, the face, but it doesn't necessarily make sense and say this. I'm going to be the face for this, for this, and I'm going to go down swinging there, because if you sit there and you make a change, all the people who are there because they just want to be fed, cotton candy and clouds and unicorn farts, are going to sit there and turn on you because you've turned on them. So I don't know. I don't know if on high, they're handing down more marching orders, or this is what you're supposed to be reporting right now to people, or how it's going to work. There was a day and an age where I did have access to multiple sites that I could go in and kind of read what was going on. I don't have that anymore. So I don't necessarily know what the message is at this point. So, Mike, hopefully I kind of answered it. I mean, I probably have pissed off some people, not in our chat, probably find its way to other places, and I really don't give a shit. I really don't. And you kind of go from there. I just said the quiet part out loud is all I've done. All right. Sage Ohio says only follow recruiting about 10%. Basically, if they commit, I'll check them out. That's where some people are, but a lot of people love recruiting, the whole soap opera of it and everything else. I said kind of when I started in the industry, it's just another type of adult soap opera that people really get into. It's amazing to where it's evolved to at this point. It was a lot easier to cover when kids weren't putting all of their own information out there, pre-Twitter, things along those lines, and be like, well, why? They're putting their information out there. Yeah, they're putting their information out there, so it's harder and harder to make a buck with the information. So if we woke up one day and social media was gone, I would be sad because I love tweeting. Kevin_noon, by the way. I love tweeting, but then again, I think the job could be more lucrative if kids didn't have that to put everything out. But they'd find a way. And it's different now. I mean, hell, you got kids getting high school NIL at this point and things of that. And I'm not speaking up about that. I'm not speaking down about that. I'm just saying it's a reality. Voices are amplified now. It's what you do with the information, I think, is what separates site A from site B and site C. And I happen to think that the site that I work at, we're just going to call it A, Buckeye Huddle, is by far the best one out there. And that's not to say I think other ones do a bad job. There are sites I think that do a bad job. But I just think we do a great job with Mark's coverage of recruiting. I get out there, I help them with, some of the side work on it. I mean, obviously can be kind of the guy to play the voice off of, but I do evaluate kids myself. Not my favorite thing in the world to do. I've always struggled with it, in my opinion. I'm just like, well, what the hell am I looking at? But put me in the camp of people who likes recruiting. Robert Howard, I'm always here for some good old TCUN disrespect, but I'm much more curious about what's going with the DC position and what Chip is doing. Chip is out recruiting. Now, that's not to say that we haven't seen instances of where a coach in college football has gone out recruiting one day, wearing one sweatshirt, and then been back in the school the next day in a different sweatshirt. I am not buying the Jacksonville OC, Houston OC stuff at this moment. And that's not against the reporter, whether it's Tom Fornelli or whoever. That's nothing. Does a good job. He's going to get the names that he's hearing, but he's hearing the names of who the team favors. And there are a lot of times that the coach is going to be like, I'm just focused on my job that I have right now, and aren't going to say boo. As for the DC position, we're a day in, 2 days in. We do have a hot board over at BuckeyeHuddle.com with a lot of names on there. Whether or not it's an internal hire, Matty G, OG Walt, Laurinaitis are the names that are getting some buzz as internal candidates. Looking externally, I mean, there's certainly some names. You're Ohio State. You're coming off of a national championship. You have, granted, you're down because you're replacing 8 of 11 starters on defense, but you have a killer depth chart of what you're going there. I think you can go out there and make a lot of people say no. You can go out there and make a lot of people a lot of money as they have to go and get re-upped by their schools. They have to go and get bonuses and everything else. So Big Bad Ohio State doesn't come in and take anybody. Let's not forget Ryan Day was in New York to do the Tonight Show this week. Hasn't necessarily been a ton of time to go through the process unless you absolutely had, break glass in case of emergency. We knew that this was going to be the situation that we were going to go with. And then I think honestly, if Ohio State does the internal hire and does it in 72 hours, they're going to be the people who are going to be pissed. Everybody's always pissed. Win a national championship, people are pissed. Did you even look? Did you even look nationally? What the hell are you doing? So I think you have a thorough search. Your internal guys really aren't going anywhere as long as you are respecting them. Now, if you hire externally or you hire one guy internally and maybe doesn't sit well with somebody else, dominoes fall. Not me speculating, not me talking with knowledge of anything. I don't want anybody being like, oh my God, Noon just sat there and said that if this guy's hired, the other two are gone. No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying that there is a protocol, there is an etiquette as to how I think that job searches need to be handled. And you have to go through those steps. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time. Again, we're not in spring ball yet. Spring ball is still March, some point in March. It is January 29th. You have a month, at least 3.5 weeks, to do a very thorough search. And is it the end of the world if you don't have a coordinator to start spring ball? No, it's not the end of the world. You're teaching your incoming guys who have had the benefit of having, enrolling and being able to go through some bowl practices. I think they understand how Ohio State, sets up its practices and things of that nature. So maybe you don't have to have the up is up and down is down and left is left and right is right type of practice. And no, here, period one punt. I mean, you know what all of that is. I wouldn't want to go through all of spring without that, not knowing, are we a 4-3 team? Are we a 3-4 team? A lot of things could change. A name that was on the board for a second that I think has just been re-upped with where he is was like Jim Leonard, the former Wisconsin DC. He's a 3-4 guy. I think you want to know some of these things as you're trying to make personnel decisions, as you're trying to figure out, okay, well, we know that we have Caleb Downs and IGB and Sonny Styles, and those are our 3 returning starters. How are we going to fit everything else in here? You want to have that person. Let's not forget, last year, Ohio State had Bill O'Brien for 10 days, less, and then made the handoff to Chip Kelly, all during the same kind of time frame of a window of when this hire should be made. So stay tuned. Obviously, a subscription to Buckeye Huddle, you'll get all of our information as we do try to keep some of the most crucial information behind the paywall. We got to eat. This is a full-time job. I don't know how to do anything else. Nobody's answered my ad for, offering to be a male model. So in light of that, I better be good at this job. So got to keep some of it behind the paywall. Got to drive people behind the paywall. Sign up, $4.99. Get your confetti. Clem Smith says, I'm a good man. No, you're a good man, Clem. I appreciate it. I do everything that I can. Let me keep going. Mika, heard we could sign O-line Philip Bowser. Thoughts? I'm not there yet. Ask me next week. I promise next week. I'm really trying to bank sleep right now. If traveling and being sick on the road and doing all this just really, kicked my butt. I went to bed at 11. I woke up at 11 this morning. I mean, my body is telling me that I'm not ready yet for everything. Plus, as anybody who's watched the show regularly, which I kind of laugh because I'm not very regular about doing the show. I've had a chest cold since the Rose Bowl. It's been a lot, but actually I do know the name, but I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody program adjacent as to what the plans are or anything else. I mean, obviously they brought in the 2 linemen, the lineman from Wisconsin and the lineman from Rice. Had a chance to see both of them on the sideline, taking the field for warm-ups during the championship game, and they are gigantic. If you're feeling good about Carson Hinsman, whether it's at guard or center, you're feeling good about Luke Montgomery. You have to look at a lot of pieces and be like, well, how many linemen do you need to bring in? Now, I also think that there's something important of not every person you bring in from the portal has to be day one ready. You can bring in somebody. Hell, I mean, look at IGB. I mean, IGB did work his way right into the lineup, but you get IGB for a couple of years. I think that you use that sometimes as, okay, it's not a matter of, whatever the senior class would be, we missed in that class. I think you can bolster the two deep at that point. Now, you also have to explain to the player, look, you're in absolutely competing for a starting position, but we cannot promise you a starting position. But you be in the two deep, and you've got 3 years of eligibility, and you could sit there and be a 2-year starter still. So again, I don't have great numbers on all that. I could tell you everything that happened in the last 4 games. That's where my mind is right now. As I've been writing pieces, we just posted the Hot 11 yesterday, top 11 players on the team over the course of the year. It's supposed to be a build-up, not, one game isn't supposed to be the thing that is the determining factor. If Jaden Fielding comes in and kicks like 7 field goals, he shouldn't suddenly be number 1 on the list, because what has he done the previous 15 games or whatever? And I'm just using Jaden Fielding as an example. Specialists are people too. Love the specialists. No hate from me. So that was fun. I've done 3 pieces in a magical numerical run in that series. As soon as I'm done with this show and get it uploaded to the audio channels, I'm going to work on piece 4. I've got 2 more in mind, maybe 3. We'll see, but a lot to unpack from all of that. But that's just to say why all of this is fresh in my mind, in my freshly shaved mind, as I was being called, an Amish person gone wrong and everything else, got this trimmed, everything else. That's where my mind is for a couple more days. Need to make it through this appearance on Sunday, because I'm sure people are going to want to talk as much about what happened versus what's coming up. And I don't think anybody's going to ask me as complicated questions as Mika does and some others here, which I do appreciate the complicated questions. I just have to be prepared. Let's see how far behind we are. We're not too bad. All right, let me scroll through here where we were. Mozart's Ghost. I really do miss the last-minute flips and signing day announcements that used to come with signing day. Urban's recruiting classes were legendary. There was always going to be a surprise. And you knew somebody was there was going to be a Von Bell situation. And Mark and I will continue to take parade laps about that one, because everybody had said that he was gone. He was going to Tennessee. And we held tight on there. And I can't even take credit for it. Mark was the one who was really like, no, hold the line on that one. And we did. And we were really the only ones who were right. That and $5 buys you a Starbucks coffee these days. But there is something nice about having the hay in the barn with the December class and everything else. And then I can go back to Tressel, and Tressel did so many things so well, but what he didn't do was get those last-minute kids. I can't tell you how many of those I wrote stories of that last-minute kid coming to Ohio State only for it not to happen. Now, obviously, he won a crap ton of games. He won a national championship. He won a crap ton of Big Ten titles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Tressel's the man. But, I think if you're sitting there and you're looking at the report card, last minute recruiting signings, F. It was not good. It was not good at all. And I think even the biggest Tressel defender couldn't debate me on that one. And again, if that is the biggest issue you have, and you recruit well for the other 49 months of the 49 months, Jesus Christ, 49 weeks of the year, I think you're doing just fine. So again, we're nitpicking there. Mike Smith, yes, Standardized Brewing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I got a buddy who lives up in Lewis Center. I'm going to text him and tell him I'm going to be up there. He's always so busy. He travels a lot for work, so who knows? But I'm going to be there, weather dependent. I think we should be fine, but I haven't even looked. That's how out of it I am. 2 to 4 or so. The goal is I want to be there at a time of where maybe the truck isn't as busy, so the owner might have a chance to pop in and spend a couple minutes. I don't know if it's a 1-man truck, 2-man truck, however that's going to work, but be able to do there, and also not be there maybe during the busiest time, as I'm there kind of just deadheading and talking football. Let me just keep scrolling. Mozart's Ghost. Hi, Kevin. I'm about saying greeting people. No, it's all good, Mozart's Ghost. The thing is I enjoy all the greetings. It gives me something to talk about the first 5 minutes of the show while I'm waiting for people to show up for the YouTube notification system to maybe or maybe not work or whatever the hell's there. I'm bad about it too. If people didn't say hello to me first, I probably wouldn't say hello. And it's not because I'm some sort of introvert or anything like that. I just don't think about it. Odysseus says, I only delete text messages when they involve Burger King. I don't know how many of you were on Tom and Tony's show last night. I was not on it per se. I was in the chat. It was their show. God, we've got 35 minutes. I haven't even talked about Michigan. So we'll get to it. I promise. We'll get, but quick story. So I'm chatting on there and I told the story. I did an appearance on 97.1 here in Columbus on Tim Hall's show. He has a recruiting segment. Generally, I'm on once every 3 to 4 weeks. He tries to kind of bounce around the recruiting sites, which is fair. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, I'd like to do it every week. But then again, I also don't want to have to be like at 7:15 to be looking at my phone. What is the advertisement right before my segment? Burger King. And since I couldn't joke about it, I couldn't joke and say that. I mean, it was advertisers spending money. I can't be like, blah, Burger King, gross. How could you do that? That would be the last time I would be on the show. That would be the last time I would be on the show for doing that. So I told it on the show. I typed it into the chat. They even put it up on the screen because they thought it was too funny. So the Burger King gods have followed me around. I'm going to do just a quick scan, make sure I don't have any super chats. And if I don't, all right, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what we have learned. Okay, I've got it up. I got some notes that a user over at Buckeye Huddle put together, and I really, really do appreciate it because it makes trying to shrink my screen so I can read two things at once. It made my life a lot easier, so I didn't have to go in and type any notes. But I want to preface this by saying I have not seen the 178, 137, whatever page response from Michigan, but I'm here to say that it was never said this was the full response. Part of the response was obtained by Yahoo Sports. As I said earlier, there are only 2 links in this chain at this point. Michigan knows what it's sending to the NC2A, and the NC2A has received it from Michigan. There wasn't like, they didn't sit there and hand it to some Pony Express guy who did that. They didn't hand it to some 3rd grade girl to pass around as a note in class. I mean, they didn't hand it to a Raven to fly through Winterfell to get to the NC2A offices in Indianapolis. Michigan knows, the NC2A knows. Why would the NC2A leak this at this point? Because they wouldn't. So it is blindly obvious that where it came from. Michigan sent it to Yahoo. Now, they didn't send all of it. So is this the best part? Is this the best part where they're talking about 11 allegations, 6 of them being level 1? Level 1 is the most serious. Level 1 is the one that gets you big time. Level 1 is the one that ends up getting people fired. Level 1 is the type that gets you bowl bans. Level 1 is the type that, the death penalty doesn't exist anymore. I'm sorry. People want to sit there and say, well, if there's ever been an example, well, that's fine. But it doesn't exist anymore. They're not going to do that. It would end up hopelessly locked up in court. It's just, you cannot do the death penalty. I hate to rain on parades. And I think that 93% of people who throw the term death penalty out in Michigan are saying it just either from, a perverse pleasure of sadomasochism or it's just, just having fun. I think there are about, 2, 3, 5, 7% of people who really think that they should get hammered to death. And that's just not going to happen. Now, if we are to take a lot of the things in here as truth, and then to also consider the fact that, have we seen everything in here that we heard about throughout the process? Obviously the sign stealing operation, yes. So the servers that were marched out of there, I don't know if we've heard enough about all of that. We do know that people who claimed that they didn't know anything about this are FOS and knew all about it. So let's not forget, the NC2A hates the crime. You know what they hate more? Being lied to. We have an example. We have a very good example in Columbus of what was worse, the crime or the cover-up. A great coach lost his job, lost his legacy. I think that the legacy is still there for a lot of people, but it was, SI running its article about, how deep it went and all this other stuff. And now that was almost 15 years ago, between 10 and 15 years ago. Suddenly a lot of people who were very critical of all of that are trying to just be very nonchalant about what happened here. Whether or not it's they hate Ohio State and they like Michigan, or they just have different sensibilities right now, or I don't know. I've had people even sit there and try to say to me, well, you can pay players and there's the portal. I'm like, what does that have to do with stealing, going and having an organized ring to steal signs? That has nothing to do with any of that. But it's just a much more relaxed atmosphere. I'm like, well, then go to a freaking yoga class. If that's what you want, go to a freaking yoga class. One has nothing to do with the other. So 6 level 1 issues there. And this is on the heels of Cheeseburger Gate, which had already been adjudicated. This is a repeat, offender situation. But of course, people aren't going to want to talk about that. They're going to try and turn this all into one situation versus, the fact that there was this and they got adjudicated and now there's this and it's still in the process. And I'm here to tell you, don't be looking for this thing to be, signed, sealed, delivered, gavelled, all of that stuff in the next couple of months. This could go 12 more months, honestly. Because the NC2A screwed up the UNC academic fraud situation. Absolutely screwed that one up. The NC2A screwed up Nevin Shapiro and Miami. If I am Michigan, I'm trying to throw so much crap in the water to muddy the water to force the NC2A to screw it up and get off on a procedural. Because honestly, I think that's the only hope that they have. They've already been horses' asses during the whole process about, well, we're not going to work with you. So the NC2A is plenty motivated. Then again, you get them angry, and that maybe you get them to overreach and screw up. But, what other recourse? Facts are facts. Dead hooker, smoking gun, trunk of the car. You're at the wheel. But as I said, I haven't had a chance to go and read anything fresh today. But wouldn't it be something if the NC2A had its own leak and put out the missing pages right now? Now, don't. First of all, as I've sat there and talked about, the only way that the NCAA really blows these things is by blowing it. You can lose the news cycle for a day or two or week or 2 weeks. Win the case. Win the case. If you feel that you have a case against Michigan, win the case. Don't be concerned about optics. How dare you do that? I mean, Michigan can make that stuff public. I mean, it made it public to a sympathetic set of eyes. I don't think that the NC2A really has to publish the response to the NOA. I think that is kind of more like, private court document or whatever. I mean, I thank God don't know a whole hell of a lot about the legal system. I'd like to keep it that way, but I don't know how necessarily all of that is going to work. So yeah, impermissible in-person scouting and recruiting violations. And Michigan did concede some of them, and it's mentioned here in my notes, but I'll get to that in a minute. 52 deleted text messages by Sharon Moore on the same day the story broke. 52 messages. It's really hard to stick to sports here because there are lots of examples in other worlds of messages being deleted, phones being broken with a hammer, bleach bit, all of that type of stuff. Hashtag stick to sports. Stick to sports. If you are in that instance, you know that all of that is like suddenly material witness and like evidence. And I don't think that there's any way that I just was so angry that I deleted all of it. I was so mad. I was out of my mind. I don't know. There is going to be at least a moment in there where you're like, should I do this or should I not? And when you take all of the NC2A courses that you have to take in terms of, being certified to recruit and everything else, at some point you were given the thing of, if you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll before anything else. Well, if you're in one of these situations and you claim to have no knowledge, put the GD phone down. It seems pretty simple to me. You put the phone down. But I deleted it because I was so angry. I can't believe we were involved in such tomfoolery, in such chicanery, in such shenanigans. Please. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly what you're doing. Internet's forever, as are phone records. You're not going to get free and clear of it by deleting it. You're only going to make yourself look worse. So I have a hard time with that one. All right, I got to put this one on here. Chuck McFarland. My eyes are getting old. At first, I thought you were Ryan Day with that beard. Well, first of all, I'm not. I got a lot of gray in mine. I'm not going to color my beard just for men. I am going to try. I've made an investment in trying to grow it properly. Got the beard oil. Haven't used it yet. Got the beard vitamins. All of that. So it'll either look awesome or I'll look like Ted Kaczynski. We'll find out. Stay tuned to the Big Me Kickoff to see how Noon's beard comes in. Stallions organized himself and a group of low-level staff, friends, and family to record in person as many as 52 games of Michigan's upcoming opponents over a 3-year stretch. 52 seems to be a good number here. That's, I've known it. You've known it. We've all known it. Michigan has denied it. Michigan fans have said, well, we just decipher them on the side of the field. And we talk to programs before games to get their notes, and everybody does it. Well, apparently not everybody does it to this extent, to this level of detail, to this scheme, if you will. In the notice of allegations, the association did attach some videos and photos of people near the seat Stallions purchased recording the sideline. Duh. I try not to swear on my show too much, but no shit. Duh. Again, smoking gun. I mean, I guess it's good to see it in the report. To see it in the report that the NC2A has it as what it believes to be fact. NCAA's assertion that it failed to monitor its football program in light of the Stallion scheme, especially after at least 2 members of the football program can raise concerns about Stallion's process for deciphering opponent signals. Look, it's good to see that there is some integrity. Now, of course, people are going to be like, well, once they went up the chain of command, why didn't they go to the Inquirer? Why didn't they go to USA Today? Why didn't they go to Buckeye Huddle with the information? At some point, I mean, you're trying to stay employed. And, you know, there have certainly been guys in various situations, and I'm not going to get into specifics because I could see this thing taking a hard left turn, that have notified the people that they've been about wrongdoings, and then nothing comes from it. But the fact that there were people in there like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable with that, I mean, shows that, you know, there's something to that. There's still some integrity left out there. Now, I mean, it's about winning games, and winning games means better compensation and means advancement, whether within your own program or a different program. To sit there and be like, yeah, there's that, and then there's I can't really live with myself by being a party to this. So, you know, that's something else. Again, I'm just reading somebody's breakdown that they posted on our message board. I've done a little of my own reading, but this was such great stuff that I just said, well, I can stop reading and just use this. Mike Hart, who was called by a Rutgers staff member and went to Rick Minter, and Michael Neiman, a low-level Michigan staff member, raised concerns about Stallion's sign stealing system and refused to be part of it when Stallions wanted him to rent a car to scout a college football game at Georgia. Neiman approached assistant coach Chris Patridge and to inform him that he did not want to be part of Stallion's scheme. Patridge went to Stallions directly and told him, quote unquote, "You are not using this kid in your signal organization, stupid thing. So, like, have him be a manager." Well, we know Patridge is already out. He's already out of the program. But, you know, when you sit there and you have kind of a chain of custody of this, and this, you know, this low-level staffer goes to his supervisor. It's like, I'm not cool with this. I'm sure the supervisor's like, oh, okay, whatever. And then he goes to the ringleader of this nefarious scheme and is like, all right, here's how we're going to do this. You're going to take him completely out of the loop. You're going to put him out on an island as a manager or something like that. If he doesn't see it, he doesn't know about it, you know, profit. This was so much more organized than Stallions being some overzealous lone wolf. We don't know where he was getting this stuff from. What he does on his own time, I don't know. We were just happy to have the information. I guess the worst thing we did was just we cared too much. This is the most I've ever used my sarcastic voice in one of my shows. And I probably could use it for the entire show. Kind of like Tom Orr's Southern voice, for those who watch some of our other programming or some of the other voices. We really are. It is Whose Line Is It Anyway? We are an improv troupe here at Buckeye Huddles. We're closing in on our first hour. Be sure to hit the thumbs up. That would really help us here on YouTube. I'm gonna lay out for a couple seconds. Give everybody who hasn't done that. Don't cost nothing. Don't put you on any mailing lists or anything like that. Hit that thumbs up. All right, thank you. Hopefully everybody did. I've seen that we've got some emoticons over on our Facebook feed. We do go to Twitter as well, but I don't get any direct feedback as to numbers on Twitter. But by far the best viewing experience, in my opinion, is youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. That's where, that's where you can see the main chat and everything else. And that's where I'd say about 96% of our participation is. So you don't need just my words. You need the words of everybody in the chat so you can get all of that there. Because I'm not punching a lot of comments through because I'm kind of off on my own little thing right now, reading through these notes. Mike Ferguson says, Tom Orr's Texan accent makes the dogs run out of the room. I lived in Texas for 5 years, and let me tell you, doesn't sound like anybody I know down there. Doesn't sound like the Texan on The Simpsons. It's something. It's something. C. Porter, they care too much. How can someone do this to her? Won't somebody think about the children? Please. What about the children? For another Simpsons reference. Former assistants Partridge and Mentor sent more than 100 combined texts to recruit outside of the NC2A's contact period. That's a no-no. The NC2A hates that stuff. It's going to be harder and harder to monitor that stuff, in my opinion. Really, the thing is that once the NC2A comes into your house, anything that you've done is found at that point. So many times it's not the thing that brings the NC2A to town that gets you in trouble, but it's once they have their subpoena power, and that's very limited as we see programs not cooperating. But once they're able to sit there and at least do a cursory check and see if anything's out of place, and they see aforementioned smoking gun on the coffee table, then they're going to start to dig. And, there are going to be people that are going to talk. Not every person that's on that staff went to Michigan. Not every person that's on that staff, is going to die on that hill. There are a lot of low-level staffers that are making, very, very, small salaries that are going to have to work probably every day of their life and probably don't want to get blackballed from an industry. So here, Mr. John Doe, I see you spent 14 years working various lower-level NC2A or college football coaching roles. Why would you like to be an assistant manager here at Meyer? I mean, I think it would just be easier to explain away a 14-year gap on your resume than that. All right. NC2A alleges that Harbaugh failed to cooperate between October 20th and January 24th, 2024, when he did not produce texts and telephone records from his personal cell prior to his departure from the school. No, duh, and that's why he has his show cause or whatever the hell he has. Stallions impeded the investigation by declining to produce his personal phone for imaging, withholding and removing hard drives from his office, putting relevant information into a backpack, and instructing a staff member to take it to an unpaid student intern's house where he, Stallions, could pick it up, and instructing a student intern to delete potentially irrelevant information. What a piece of shit. I mean, seriously. Oh my God, what a schemer. What a schemer. Yeah, we knew about we knew about not turning over his phone. We knew about removing the hard drives. Putting some unpaid intern into the mix, who I'm sure happily obliged. Oh, we're really sticking it to the NC2A, aren't we, Marty? By doing that, that's just crummy. What, did you think he was being tailed? Was he going to get stopped and frisked? What is this? Cloak and dagger? Spy versus spy? I mean, Jesus Christ. Instructing a student intern to delete potentially relevant information. Now you put the student into the mix. Everybody only concerned about covering their own heinies. And then Partridge violated a bylaw by pressuring an athlete to protect the football coaching staff by providing false or misleading information when answering questions. And again, that goes into the cover-up. And that is, that certainly is an issue. The NC2A hates cover-ups. But I'll be curious, and we'll kind of go back to answering some questions and comments and things like that as I've gone through the notes. I mean, there could be more relevant information out right now. I just am going off of the information I had in front of me. It is just insane. It is just insane. This is the good stuff. This is not the stuff that Michigan didn't want to leak out there. If you believe, which I do, that this is only a partial. What else? What else is not out there at this point? Because the thing is it's not like, let's say they're 200 pages and Michigan released 70% of them. There's still 30% of the pages that went to the that went back to the NCAA and that details the NOA and everything else. They're not just going to rule on the pages that Michigan wants to put out there to Yahoo Sports. So if your overall feeling about these pages is not good, Bob, what's the rest? I would give up maybe 2 fingers to see the complete unredacted NOA. I didn't say with my fingers, maybe somebody else's fingers. But I really would like to see that. Yeah, C. Porter with a really good point right now. They're upset at the whistleblower, more upset now at the whistleblower than the crime. How dare you? How dare you besmirch this sacred building with your absolute truths about what happened here? How dare you, sir? Oh, my freaking head. But that's how it works. I mean, you got to demonize somebody. They're not going to demonize Stallions. They're not going to demonize Harbaugh. Hell, they're not even demonizing Ward Manuel at this point, the athletic director there. I had somebody send me a couple of posts there that he finally grew a backbone. Good job, Ward. So you got to demonize somebody. They can't demonize Ryan Day's PI brother. Times mentioned in there, 0. I thought we were getting a RICO case against Ohio State. I thought Ohio State hacked into Michigan servers. No, these aren't wild fan theories. These are wild moderator theories that their people were saying. I think that Michigan kidnapped the Lindbergh baby. Where's my proof? I've got just as much proof as these guys do of their bullshit. So there you go. Michigan steals Lindbergh baby. See how easy it is to just throw wild ass crap out there? So yeah, I agree, C. Porter. It's all about the whistleblower at this point. That person better be in a knocker ball inside a knocker ball inside a knocker ball inside a knocker ball inside a safe house in Ohio inside a knocker ball. They're going to send the ICP after them or something. Let me scroll up a little bit. We had noticed I'm having a little too much fun with this one. I really am. We're going to try and go about 90 minutes. That seems to be the sweet spot before I start to lose my voice. Somebody talking about the block feature. I'm sorry if I'm not doing a good job on the text messages and everything else. I kind of was doing my thing there. Doing a solo show sometimes can be a little bit of a problem here. Mika Hanna says, "You're hilarious, Kevin. I love you guys at BH." Look, we don't take ourselves too seriously. There are times where you have to be serious. There are times where you can have fun. There are times where you can mix it up. I think if I sat there and just read in a monotone voice my thoughts off, I probably wouldn't have people watching. So you got to have a little bit of fun with it. Mika, no rivalry without respect, and I just can't do that anymore. I hear you on there. Just keep going here. Here we go. All right. Bobblehead Guru. What value would it provide for Michigan to leak this info? If the NCAA that did it, that makes much, much more sense because they're not going to be able to win this case. What? Michigan is trying to get public opinion. Michigan is trying to sit there and say that they're being overcharged. The NCAA, this isn't going to a court. The NCAA is the judge. the NCAA doesn't have to go out and be like, God, I sure hope we can win this case. So, no, there are people at Yahoo that have been absolute Michigan sympathizers. I'm not saying they haven't done their job, but they have been a sympathetic set of eyes, a sympathetic set of fingers, a sympathetic set of vocal cords who have tried their best to dilute things. I am 99.9% positive that Michigan leaked this. If the NCAA leaked this, I guarantee you it would have been the 30 pages or the 50 pages or the 70 pages that we didn't get. I also know who the NCAA would leak it to, and it's not Yahoo. So, no, I muddy the waters all you want, but non sequitur, I don't even understand what the hell your question is, because the NCAA has no reason to leak this case. Hell, the NCAA could have leaked. I mean, if it was going to leak this stuff, it could have leaked it start of the season, before the Michigan game, the Michigan-Ohio State game, at any point. No, this is Michigan leaked this. Period. So apparently Bobblehead Guru, I know what side that Bobblehead Guru is on this, and there you go on that. So got a text message from somebody, unrelated. The NCAA knows they cannot win this case. Therefore, they're leaking this info. That is my opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. But you know what they say about opinions and assholes. Everybody has one and they all stink. So, how do they know they cannot win this case? There's that great Michigan legal team that was going to sue everybody, going to step up and slay the NCAA dragon. The same one that folded like a cheap deck of cards over the Harbaugh suspension. Now, I will admit that that was the Big Ten. That was the Big Ten at that point. The Big Ten really was toothless with that, suspending Harbaugh for half a day a week, half a Saturday. I mean, he was able to do everything else. I mean, if we're being honest, but the inmates don't run the asylum, sir. They know they can't win this case. Based on what? Who adjudicates this case? Who sits at the bench and adjudicates this case? It is the Council of Infractions of the NCAA. Well, we put this case together, but we're not going to win it. But it's going to make Michigan look really, really, really stupid. So let's just do it and leak it, because that would be funny and cool. I mean, come on, my guy. You're better than that. You're better than that. You can sit there and say, oh, I think that these findings are horse crap and everything else. But if you think that they are saying, oh, well, we're just, they're just making, we know we can't win this, so we're just going to try and smear them. We really don't like Sharon Moore. Please. Robert Howard says you cannot unbrainwash them, and I'm not here to do that. And, of the 250 people between the three platforms, really need to find a better time to do these shows to get more people involved. So be sure to tell your friends to watch us here on the Big Me Kickoff. And I, in turn, will do a better job of doing more shows. I'm not here to unbrainwash people. I'm just here to present what my reality is. And I also understand that my reality may not be Bobblehead Guru's reality or whoever's reality. I just don't think that Bobblehead Guru is living in reality with his statements. Ross Dellinger does a podcast with Dan Wetzel. Michigan leaked this. Wetzel is very sympathetic toward Michigan, lives in Michigan. Dan is a professional. I'm not here to say otherwise, but I think we all have our soft spots and everything else. And I think that even if it's an unconscious thing, which I think it is here, that's the case. Dan Wetzel wrote some things that were very much off the beaten path. during the last flare-up of this whole thing. And, certainly put some things into question at that point. Odysseus says that bobblehead must read Ballas and Webb as gospel. Yeah. JG gives me a point, so there you go. Kevin Noon, 1. Bobblehead Guru, 0. Here we go from Bobblehead Guru. The end game is here. It's like the Tennessee case. Tennessee won. NCAA never wins in court, at least not in the last 10 years. This isn't going to court. This isn't going to court. Now, there are certainly some things that are in here that could go to court, but that's not an NC2A thing. Certainly with, if you believe there were certain things on hard drives and everything else, there are things that are against the law. The NC2A is there at the pleasure of all of its member institutions. Biff Poggi's gone from Charlotte. He was like the only ally that Michigan had. I don't think that there's really anybody else that's going to want to come on, that there's going to be a North Korea or Cuba that's going to vote on the UN resolution of, we think Michigan's A-okay. No, nobody wants to have cheating. Nobody wants to have cheating. So the NC2A is empowered by its membership. Now, don't F up your investigation. Don't screw up the UNC academic thing, which, again, a 2-year-old could have prosecuted. Don't screw up the Miami situation, which a 4-year-old could have prosecuted. The NC2A shouldn't be smoking any victory cigars yet. They have a long history of screwing this stuff up. Well, I love you too, Bobblehead Guru. I just don't agree with. I don't agree with your statements. Are you gonna get any confetti? Are you gonna get confetti and then burn it or something? That would be a funny video, actually. That would be a funny video. I would retweet it if you got national championship confetti and then burned it. I would absolutely retweet it 100%, and with a big laugh. I would find that really funny. Look, I've just been in a pissy mood for a couple weeks, so people may be catching shrapnel from the pissy mood I've been in. But Kevin, Ohio State won the national championship. That's great. You sometimes have stuff going on outside of work. So to anybody that I may be offended along the way, I do apologize. Well, except for maybe the Michigan beat. I don't care what you think. But anybody else, I've just been in a pissy mood. Wingman Ted, that's like saying the Supreme Court would leak documents because it was sure it wasn't going to win a case. In this case, the NC2A is both the prosecutor and the judge. Michigan leaked the documents, and they did, So I don't know. I don't understand the not be. I understand looking at the big, or at the, just going to name everything until I get the right thing. Just keep grabbing at straws. The NC2A's inability to close big cases. And I think, that is a valid point. But at some point, you learn from your mistakes. At some point, you learn from your mistakes. You learn, hey, maybe we shouldn't overreach on this, or hey, we shouldn't, be too rough on a witness on that, or something like that. So, I don't know how you can sit there and look at this Yahoo report and feel that it is good or indifferent toward Michigan. It's bad. It's bad, and we're not seeing the worst parts yet. And honestly, we may never see the full, correspondence. I mean, it could be mothballed into some historical record, along with the vote in 1973 to who to send to the Rose Bowl. And yes, I was only 2 years old at that point, so let's not prematurely age me about being there or anything for that vote. But it's going to be a bumpy ride, and it's not going to be a quick ride. It's not going to be they broke the log jam. The waters are flowing now in the river. This, we should have a conclusion in 8 weeks now. This is going to take forever. Remember, Michigan asked for more time to be able to draw this all up. This is the best part you got? This is the best. This is the least damning part you've got? I mean, hell, they could have just released a one-pager to Yahoo saying, we firmly disagree with everything that was in the NOA. We plan to fight this to the fullest extent of the law and take it above and beyond all of that. At this time, we'll not be releasing any of these things that we believe to be half-truths and non-truths and baseless allegations, and we will not comment further on this at this time. Probably would have been better for them. I mean, you put this stuff out, at least you get people, you get people kind of like, well, okay, I guess they did some things wrong. 6 level 1s? That's bad. That's bad. Drugs are bad, okay? I don't understand the strategy. I mean, unless this is for those people who like Tom Clancy books and movies, unless this is the scene from Red October where Sean Connery has them turn the submarine into the torpedo, so it strikes the submarine before it has a chance to detonate, and everybody kind of freaks out about it at the time. It's like, you're doing what? So unless they're trying to head on this somehow before anything can arm, I don't really understand the strategy. Now, also, when you're dead to rights, you just use the Chewbacca defense from South Park. Chewbacca shouldn't live on Endor. So I don't know. Oh, geez. Okay. Mike Ferguson. Kevin, what was it like to watch the Woody Punch against Charlie Bauman in person? I was not there. I was still young. No. And actually, at that point, I guarantee you, I wasn't even a college football fan at that point. I didn't get into college football until like my 8th grade, I think, is when I finally got into it. Growing up where I did in Southern California, a lot of my friends were SC fans because their parents went to SC or somebody with that. My dad went to a school that didn't have college football. My mom didn't go to college. My one uncle played football at University of Redlands, but that was well before I was alive. And then my other uncle, he went to college, but I couldn't tell you where. So I didn't have a natural tie-in to any school per se. I mean, yeah, I guess I could have been a big UC Irvine fan. UC Irvine didn't have football. So it wasn't until I really started thinking about going to college that I was like, hey, I should probably become a college football fan. I don't know. I thought I was going to be manager of the Dodgers. I thought I was going to take over for Tommy Lasorda, or that I was going to take over for Vin Scully. Those were the 2 jobs that I thought I was going to have as a kid. Drowsy Dragon. Woody had a great roundhouse punch, baby. I bet you 20 years prior he did. At that point, I mean, you don't sleep on old man strength. Old man strength is a very real thing. It's a very real thing, but never punch a guy in a helmet and pads. It's just not going to work. It's, seriously, like in hockey when they fight. I mean, don't hit the guy in the helmet. You're going for headshots and you're hitting the helmet and breaking up your hand. Don't do that. It is chin. It's much better. This is, how much grief have I given Tom about my Dodgers winning it all? About none, because he won't give me the satisfaction of any payoff. He doesn't. I don't care. And I truly believe that's true. I mean, the Mets, had a good run and everything else, and I gave him a little bit of grief there, and he's like, yeah, whatever, buy your roster. You and your $20 million NIL, whatever. So apparently the Dodgers and Ohio State are the same thing. So if you like one, you should like the other. Let's just keep looking here as we're in the final 10 minutes of the show. As I said, I have a couple more. I have some writing to do today, so I need to. I do need to not run for 2.5 hours on the show. Now, if we had like 1,000, 1,500 people on here, I'd probably run a little bit longer. Every one of you matter. But watch us on youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. That is by far the best place to catch us. Hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Buckeye Huddle, $4.99 for your first month. If you want national championship confetti, we got it. Not a lot left. Tom Moore took a huge tray of envelopes to the main post office earlier this week to get them out in the mail. People should hopefully be getting them by the end of the week. Maybe even locals could be getting them by tomorrow. We still have some more left. All you have to do is be a premium member of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Go to the National Championship Confetti thread. Say, hey, me wanty, and then DM Tom Moore by clicking on his name, start a conversation, and you too can get some. Now, when it's out, it's out. And Tom is the one monitoring how much is left in the tank. So I've asked at times, I'm like, tell me when I need to start slowing down promoting this. And and here's the reality. Every piece of that confetti was picked up by Tom, Tony, or myself. We didn't cut it with any Party City confetti. There's no Rose Bowl confetti mixed in with it to confuse you. All national championship confetti. Yours, if you sign up, premium membership, Buckeye Huddle, $4.99 for your first month. Let me just keep looking through here. B. Douglas. They knew how Stallions was getting the signs, but thought if they were simply the recipients, then they would be absolved. Whether you tell yourself so you can sleep at night. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know where this is coming from. He's just really good at his job. I mean, he was some psycho fan that, was stationed at Camp Pendleton in Southern California and going to Michigan on his own dime and being a data nerd and, worked his way into figuring out some stuff. And then, the problem with success is then you have to have more success. If you sit there and have a little bit of success and then you flatline there, then it's at some point it's like, well, was that just, lightning in a bottle? I mean, I want to see the Michigan manifesto. That's what I want to see. I want to see his gigantic 900-page, and I don't know if it's 900 pages, but I want to see this huge manifesto that he has on whatever it is to be a Michigan man, to win, I mean, the ramblings of a madman. Let me tell you. And the fact that he was like championed around by Portnoy over at Barstool. What a freaking joke. What a freaking joke. That one, the thing is like, it doesn't matter because I think that Barstool is not, and it doesn't claim to be a credible news gathering organization. It is a humorous, satirical, S-posting type of site. And that's fine. They carved out a niche in the industry and they own it. Hats off. Now, some of his jackassery toward Michigan is a bit much. There's a guy on Twitter who was a teacher here in Ohio. I don't know what his handle is. I know his name on there is Ohio's Tate. And, he's fighting a good fight over there on behalf of Ohio State. Pizza reviews are kind of funny. But, just we didn't know. We didn't know. We got so many things to do. How are we supposed to vet this information that is 1,000% making our offense 500 times better than it was before, making our defense 500 times better than it was before? That's kind of on you, buddy. It's kind of on you. FOIA request for the NOA might finally be granted, though I imagine it would be heavily redacted. Yeah, it would be more strike through ink than anything. I just don't know at this point. Christopher Sowers, Kevin, when do you think Day chooses a new C? Is there real smoke with Chip leaving early to the NFL? Touched upon this earlier, but as I know, not everybody can get here right at the start of the show. There's not a huge rush on DC now because they're pretty much their entire class of 25 is signed. I'm not expecting a signing on this next week for traditional signing day. I think you really have to have somebody in place by spring ball. What are we, a 4-3 team, a 3-4 team? What kind of front are we running? What are we doing here? I think it's important. I think that there are going to be coaches out there that would like to know if they are in contention or out before they would need to start with their current job in the spring. That's several weeks. So, Am I expecting something in the next couple of days? The only way it's something in the next couple of days is if it was already determined inside that it was going to be an internal promotion. And as I said earlier, I think there'd be people who will be pissed off. Not that it's an internal promotion, but why didn't you go out and do a real search? Well, I mean, if you already knew you were going to go internal, then that's fine. But, I've certainly covered enough coordinator / coach type things of I can't believe that they didn't go out and look at so and so, so and so, and so and so. Hell, in the Carlos Loughlin search, there were still people who were pissed off that felt that Ohio State kind of settled there. They were wrong. Carlos Loughlin, a tremendous running backs coach, has been a tremendous recruiter too. So, with a gift of foresight, we can see a lot of things. Let's just keep going. L says, didn't Ted Kaczynski go to Michigan? He also wrote a manifesto. What's up with these Michigan manifestos? Well, I mean, if there are a lot of lakes and then there's a lot of ICP, what are the juggalos? I think that's all. And weed shops. That's what Michigan has. Lakes, juggalos, and weed shops. And you can sit there in your shed by a lake, drinking Faygo like a juggalo with your weed, writing your manifesto. That's the best I got. Who are the guys who rotated in and out last year that I expect to have a breakout year next year? Well, a lot of them are going to have to because the starter ain't there. I mean, obviously, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, both are going to be expected to do big things as your starting ends. Who kind of backs them up inside? Cade McDonald, Jason Moore, Edric Houston. I could go on there. I mean, there's some young guys going to be able to step up. Linebacker. I mean, if depends if they're are they a 4-2-5? Are they what are they running at that point? Obviously, Sonny and Arvell are your main guys. Peyton Pierce step up. Somebody like Peyton Pierce. Some of the other linebackers that they've got. Could a young guy get in? Could like a Riley Pettijohn, a TJ Alford? It'll be interesting to see there. I mean, I know you're talking about guys who rotated last year, so I guess mentioning the young guys is not exactly in the spirit of the question. In the secondary, you're going to have to see guys step up. You're going to have to see Jalen McLean step up, Malik Hartford, Jermaine Matthews, guys like that. Could a young guy like a Fahim Delane, could a Devin Sanchez be a guy? There's just going to be so much on defense. On offense, you're going to see a couple of transfer guys really be in the mix on the offensive line. What's that going to look like? I think you're going to look at tight end. I mean, G. Scott Jr. is gone, but you got Cass Merrick, you've got Thurman, you bring in Max Clare from Purdue via the portal. I think that's what you're going to see there. Running back, obviously, it's going to be James Peoples, and then it's going to be the kid from Kentucky, I believe, Edmonds, I think is his name. That's going to be your main thing there, maybe with some young guys stepping up as, kind of your third back. I mean, obviously, we know what quarterback it's honestly, in my opinion, it's going to be the Julian Sayin show. If they're able to hold on to Lincoln Keenholz, I think that, he's going to push Sayin. A lot of people want to see Tavian St. Clair get into the mix. He's going to be a true freshman. He may have the body of an 18 or 19-year-old already at this point, but there is a lot to learn. Even the most prepared mentally quarterbacks in the world need to have some seasoning time. How Arch Manning wasn't able to step in as a true freshman at Texas. You have to have some seasoning time to kind of get there. The windows get smaller. Things that your receivers would be able to kind of help you with. That throw isn't there anymore, or worse yet, it's an interception. So there's going to be all of that. And then obviously at receiver, we know Carnell is Carnell. We know Jeremiah is Jeremiah. Brandon Ennis, I think, is going to have a big role. I think Bryson Rogers could have a role. Mylan Graham is somebody who we really didn't get to see this year, except on some special units types of things. I think he has a big role. And then I think Quincy Porter is somebody who could demand some playing time as a true freshman as well. And then specialists. I love specialists, but I don't follow specialists. I don't know what the hell is going on there. Let's just keep going as we are right here at 1:30, but I will go through the chats I'll go through the messages we have right now. I'll hit the couple that I want to talk about. Only thing that will keep me here longer are super chats, or if you sign up for BuckeyeHuddle.com right now as a premium member, and then you tell me I just signed up, I'll stay for 5 minutes longer, or we'll figure something out. Lisa Sims says it took 3 weeks to announce Coach Locke's hiring last year. It did, but there were still people who were mad that this guy wasn't interviewed or that guy wasn't interviewed. Ohio State made a lot of coaches a lot of money who stayed at their previous places. I'm just saying that people aren't happy with how coaching searches go. They get locked in on this has got to be the guy, come hell or high water, this guy, or disband the program. I don't know if there's that name necessarily for DC yet at Ohio State, but I also do know that 30% of the time we have the name right off the bat. It's just the most obvious name is the one that gets hired. And then 70% of the time it's a name that nobody's talking about. And, things just kind of happen. Nobody was talking about Kevin Wilson coming into his role until I got a call from somebody who's like, Kevin Wilson is in town interviewing for the Ohio State job. And I passed that on to somebody on staff, and we went with it. So you just don't know until you know. Matty G, I just like saying Matty G. Matty G kind of is my clubhouse leader at this point. There's a continuity thing. There are going to be a lot of people like, he's like 12 years old. Well, 1, no, he's not. 2, he hasn't done this. Oh, he did it at Duke. No, he hasn't done it at Ohio State. But Jim Knowles hadn't done it anywhere bigger than Oklahoma State. So, I think he's my clubhouse leader, but I wouldn't say that it's like by 8 strokes or anything like that. I could see any of the 3 internal hires that I mentioned potentially being there. I don't know. I need more time to kind of dive into that one. The problem is it's difficult. I mean, but check out the hot board that Tony Gerdeman put together over at Buckeye Huddle. Has about 10 names there. Let's just keep going through here. Mozart's Ghost wants to go back and might need to go back and read the Kaczynski Manifesto. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Just keep going. Mika Hanna talking about Isaiah West being underrated. Yeah, I mean, there was a point where Ohio State was going to land Bo Jackson and Marquise Davis, and then that was going to be it. And, Locke gets into the rooms like, I pounding the table, I want this Isaiah West. And, and that worked. Marquise Davis ends up sliding away. Oh, he's going to Michigan. Wrong. But, you don't know. But I'm not going to go after the low-hanging fruit of making fun of Tony Alford. Tony Alford was always very, very good to me as an assistant coach at Ohio State. Would always stop and say hello, knew my name. I mean, all of those things are important. Yeah, boy, Kevin, you got a low bar. If a coach knows your name, you're cool with them. Partly, yeah. So I'm not going to go over the low-hanging fruit there, but I saw a different edge to the running backs under Locke than I did under Alford. And you see, the thing is that that's not even a question that I really can ask these guys off the record, because they're not going to want to crap on their old coach either. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, Alford, he just hit us with those padded sticks, but Locke did this, and this. But as an observer, I think I saw something a little bit different out of the running backs this year than the previous year. And yes, being healthy certainly helps the cause. Mozart's Ghost, wishing we didn't lose Gabe Powers. That one just kind of felt like a tweener. He felt like a tweener. Was he a linebacker? Was he an edge? I mean, CJ Hicks got a little bit of tweener to him too. They are not the same body types by any stretch of the imagination, but they're just sometimes with what the system is you're running. And if you're not running a 3-4 and have, those outside linebackers like you do in a 3-4 as opposed to a 4-2-5, if you're not able to play edge, if you're not able to play end, and you're certainly not playing Mike, are you going to be the Sam? If you take the Will off the field, are you going to be able to be the Sam? I don't know. So I wish him well at K-State. He was the player to be named later in that trade that got Ohio State Will Howard. Christopher believes that Houston's about to ball out. I don't disagree. Also believes that Jalen McClain is a future star. I really like Jaden Bonsu, who transferred out. Jalen McClain is like Jaden Bonsu plus. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be really, really good. We're still talking about some of the names of the breakouts, McClain or Malik Hartford. We've got Mike Smith saying it's West Virginia is where Donaldson came from. You're right. You're right. Again, in 14 days, I'll have everything down pat. I'm still in 24 mode. Jeff Johnson says Max Clare. Sanchez will push IGB for playing time. I think that you're going to see IGB is going to. I think you're going to see a good year out of him, but I think you're going to see with Sanchez that he is a 3 and done. There's no reason to try and hold him back. And when you are so young at such positions, it's going to just be best to get guys out there. Sanchez is a physical freak. He is a physical freak. He understands the game. Now you're drinking from a fire hose when you get to the collegiate game. I don't care if you're the son of a coach or whatever. There's just a lot to pick up. Now he has the benefit of being here through the winter. He'll go through spring ball, so he has a head start on a lot of people. But I'm never one to put a lot of pressure on a true freshman, and it's not because I think this kid can do it and this kid can't. Basically, in my opinion, I'll believe it when I see it on any kid because it's a lot. It's a lot, and we do see true freshmen play more so at some positions than other positions, but it's still a lot. L wants to see Donaldson play. I think the 1-2 punch of Donaldson and James Peoples is going to be big, or Peoples and Donaldson, whichever way you want to look at it. Two very different style of backs, but I think that before Peoples is done, I think he'll have a 1,500-yard rushing season as long as he's not completely diluted down with another back where we had a couple of 1,000-yard seasons with Trey and Quinshon. But I'm that high on James Peoples. I think there's a 1,500-yard rusher there. And really, I should up that number because if you play 16 games, that isn't all that special. 1,500 over the 13 game season. So I guess I could do the math, carry the 1, everything else, 1,700-yard rusher. Mika loves Quincy Porter. Yeah, I think he's going to be really good. Hartford played as a freshman. Don't sleep on him. Very long range. He was going to be the guy, in my opinion, if it wasn't going to be Caleb Downs. You get Caleb Downs because it's Caleb Downs. You don't go get Caleb Downs because you think that Malik Hartford isn't going to be the guy. We're getting a little long-winded here. We're in overtime. We are in overtime. Man, I'm so late. The best damn pod in the land. The best news is that you can find us at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Entire show will be there. I guess I'll go live again on Friday if I have enough to talk about. Probably won't, but you guys will find stuff for me to talk about. Maybe I'll be a little bit better, well read on either the Michigan stuff or recruiting or whatever. Again, this is the week that I kind of have said I'm going to write some. I'm going to do a couple shows. I'm not going to overly push myself too much. Let's see if I can break this chest cold and be healthy. Let's just keep going in here. There's a belief that Porter could be the next MJH, or MHJ. I'm sorry. That's all there. Aaron Scott is no slouch. No, I mean, Aaron Scott, Bryce West. I mean, there are going to be a lot of great competitions. And I think that this is going to be a spring more so than last year that's going to have more individual storylines. They were huge storylines last year. Who is this Will Howard guy? What the hell is going to happen post Kyle McCord? What the hell is this offensive line going to look like? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here you're going to have I think you're going to have some smaller ones of who's going to replace this guy and who's going to replace that guy and who's going to replace this guy and who's going to replace that guy. Oh, by the way, what is the defense going to look like under a new defensive coordinator? So there'll be a lot of that there too. And what the hell is going to happen at quarterback now that this Will Howard guy has moved on? But still. Robert's like, we got you, Kevin. We can help produce the show. I want you guys to have ownership in the show. I just think that that's important. It would be really easy for me to just tape 15-minute shows and talk at you. And I've done those before. They're not nearly as much fun. They're not as much fun. And lastly, Can we get Tom versus Tony spring competition? I'm here for that. I'm here for that. I think that we need to sit there, but it's got to be American Gladiator style. And I've got to be the one shooting the tennis ball machine right at them. Nut shots only. Nut shots only. All right. Well, we got an hour 40, a little over time, but you guys make it so easy for me to forget how long we're going and how much I'm losing my voice. Here on this impromptu version of the Big Me Kickoff here on Wednesday, January 29th, $4.99, first month of Buckeye Huddle. Get championship confetti, profit. All right. But until then, until our next show, I want to thank everybody for being part of this. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.